So let's talk about something that we don't talk about enough in gaming, which is the fellowship of the thing, the community of the thing. When you think about playing video games, do you actually think about connections, or do you have the stereotypical image of the nerd in their mom's basement sitting in the dark? But it's really about friendships, or maybe I would even go so far as to call it church community. The truth is that some of the best games out there aren't really about winning, but they are about growing together. And that is why today we're going to be highlighting one of the best new co-op games, Split Fiction, from Hazelight Studios. You may know them from It Takes Two or A Way Out, and a few other games that we like that help build community, teamwork, and if we're honest with those two games, patience. If you've ever wanted a game that actually brings people closer instead of just raging in the lobby, then this one is for you.
Look, life and faith aren't solo missions. The reality is that we need each other. The Bible even says in Ecclesiastes 4:9, two are better than one because they have a good reward for their labor. Jesus even sent the disciples out in pairs in the sending of the 72. We're better together. And what better way to see that in action than in a cooperative game? Because when you're playing solo, you rely on yourself. But in co op, you learn real teamwork, communication, trust, problem solving, and sometimes learning how to not to yell at your friend when they keep missing the same dang jump. And
And that
I am normally that friend.
Yeah, I do think that is what I've heard about Split Fiction, is that it takes the headache that was It Takes Two, playing with a non-gamer and making it that much worse. But nonetheless, that is what makes games like Split Fiction stand out, because they're not just co-op optional. It's not one of those games where whenever you walk too far, they just go into a bubble and you can keep, following them, but there's no disincentivization for actually like participating. But instead, it's co-op required. You literally cannot play this game on your own. You need a friend around to get from point A to point B and experience the story. So with that in mind, if you have not already, let's talk a little bit about Split Fiction. If you liked It Takes Two, then you will probably really enjoy this. This is a wild, ever-changing game where you and a friend play as two writers, Mio and Zoe, who are pretty different, about as polar opposite people as you can possibly imagine. And they get trapped in a virtual simulation based on their own unfinished stories. Every level in the game is completely different. One second, you're zipping through a futuristic city. The next, you're shapeshifting in a fantasy realm. The game moves so fast that the gameplay and gimmicks never get stale. Even if they're not for you, it moves so quick, you never have time to get bored. Here's the catch, though. Each player has completely different abilities, and you have to work together in order to progress through the game. And the coolest part to me about Hazelight Studio games in general is that they don't make you buy two copies of the game. Only one person actually needs to own it, and then you can just send a friend pass to another person who can be invited to play with you for free. The game was designed to be shared, and as a fan of community and of community building, I just think that's really neat.
Now, Split Fiction isn't the only game that does this. If you're looking for more co op experiences that actually strengthen friendships, maybe even for a game night with your youth group or family, here are some of our favorites. Overcooked 2. This one will test your patience and communication skills while you're serving up some food.
Yeah, that is the one that drives me the absolute craziest. And I saw Drew down there mention Pico Park. That is similar vibes of madness. I can remember the good times last year of Helldivers 2, actually around this time of year with Helldivers 2 last year, which was a ridiculous time that encouraged not only just good old fashioned co-op teammate play, but also it had this like culture of faux camaraderie with each other. You were kind of hamming up and playing into some ridiculous characters, and it was just an all around good time. And there's also Minecraft. We have a Minecraft realm here at Checkpoint where we just hang out and get together and build a community and share supplies. And it's just fun to be in a community like that. There's no expectations or rules or pressure or any of those kind of things. You can be somebody that maybe every time you log in, you build a house. I don't know. You could be that guy. If you wanted to be that guy, that could be you. I'm not saying that's me. Could be anybody. But that's something that just brings a good smile to my face whenever I think about playing Minecraft with some good friends.
Among Us, this got really popular during the pandemic. I remember playing it with friends because sniffing out the wolf Among Us is fun and also terrifying and always sus.
It is. It's so good. And there's another version now. We have like the third version of Among Us at this point,
There's
which
so
I have
many.
still not played. Maybe I'll play it
Nope.
eventually. I can also remember back in the day of classic Overwatch, like the origin days of Overwatch, where you just had a friend group that you would just be ready to like squad up. You'd be messaging each other and send a quick text and be like, y'all down for tonight? And everybody would hop in, and you'd always have like, the one person that actually knew what they were doing, and then the other people that had no idea what they were doing. I won't tell you which one I was, but that was definitely the vibe for me. And I think back to my group of friends that we played together, and I have a lot of fond memories of those.
So Bokura is a newer one to me. Nate and I played the demo for Bokura Planet, and it was a wild ride with secret plot information. And
Lots of
I
guns,
want
so
to
many
play that
guns.
entire game with him. It was wild, man. And eventually play the first one with him as well, because there's so much in this world that I want to explore. And then I mentioned before the podcast in the pre-game that there are cooperative board games. And so we had to talk about TTRPGs, tabletop role-playing games, because you can choose how competitive you want to be or cooperative within your party. You could have a D&D party that are the most antagonistic players that you've ever had that your DM tells you. I would have never been part of that party. I don't know what you're talking about. Good thing Cam has disappeared already. But there's so many TTRPGs out there, and D&D is only one of so many systems.
Yeah, I one of my favorite, and I've told this story plenty of times, but is Alice is Missing. I thought it was such a cool experience. It's a similar cooperative kind of solve the mystery game where you're trying to figure out why is Alice missing, what happened, and it's almost kind of like a really long form, really intense, and role played form of Clue. And it's just a really good time, a great experience, and one of the hallmarks of my experience really within the Checkpoint community, not just as the pastor, but as one of the folks. But the reality is these are just a couple examples. At the end of the day, gaming, just like faith, can be about community. It's about growth of our person, which includes who we are when we're with others. Jesus didn't call us to do ministry alone, and we weren't meant to walk alone through life either. So whether it is through gaming or finding a small group or just showing up for people in your real life, find a team. Find the people who will build you up and challenge you and walk alongside you, because trust me, just like in these games, you do not want to go at it alone.
So, here is our challenge to you. Find a game that actually brings people together and invite someone to play. Maybe it's Split Fiction. Maybe it's one of the other games we mentioned. But most importantly, don't just game alone. Build community. And hey, if you've got a favorite co op game, continue to drop them in the chat. Let's make a list of the best ones together. And until next time, keep gaming, keep growing, and we'll see you next week for our main segment here on the Week in Geek.